So I was really gentle with myself, and I slept a lot, and it really it's a blow to me. I really don't like to do that. I've been doing a modified morning routine, um, and um, and when I'm tired, I sleep. I took a 3 hour nap today. I got 8 hours sleep last night. I'm not really well. So I gave myself permission to be human. I was aware. I tuned in. I tried to tune in to what my body needed, and I gave my body what it needed. And that's not easy for me. So I did that well today. What I could do better tomorrow is accept help. I have a lot of friends and family who, are trying to go out of their way to help me, whether that be bring me food or take a responsibility off my plate. And I respectfully decline. And I think it's, I think by not asking for help and not receiving help, I'm actually not allowing somebody to get the gifts of what it's like to help somebody. And it's really just my ego. So I can do a little better at receiving help when it's offered, and stop trying to do everything on my own, which is a daily struggle for me.
Thanks, Joey, and thank you for your service also, Cathy. I understand the power of that as well. It's a beautiful thing. It makes me happy to hear that stuff. And Joey, I just want to acknowledge your beautiful writing for this post, okay? And let me just read this out. Never underestimate the power of your story to make an impact on others. When we share your personal story, honesty and vulnerability have the power to heal wounds, and in turn heal the world. He's a good writer, this guy, and this is exactly why we've got you on the show today, Cathy, to help share the story of you. We'd love to. Joey, do you want to guide us, mate?
Yeah, Cathy. Cathy had gone through a tremendous amount of adversity. She describes it as a trifecta of really life, hard life stuff, and it took her to a point where she woke up and she began to commit to and design a way of life for herself, with clear intention, and elevated emotion. And she helps others through her coaching and writing and teaching and speaking, to make that decision to live with clear intention, without having having thrown a bunch of adversarial events to kind of beat life to the punch and live on purpose. And so tell us a little bit about some of the adversity that you overcome, and how those gifts received coming out the other side, are, your way to make a difference in others people's lives.
It is, and that's just the thing, right? When we're going through whatever we're going through, and everybody goes through something at some point in their life, right? Nobody gets through life unscathed. We don't see the lesson in it. We don't see the blessing in it. We just see the struggle, and we question, like, why me? Why this? What did I do? Right? We put it all on ourselves, like we're being punished for something, right? And we don't truly understand the power in it, or why we're having to go through these things, until we're on the other side. And I thought it for the longest time, I internalized it all, right? I was broken. I did something wrong. I wasn't meant for whatever it was meant for. It just wasn't meant to be. And then I got to a point in my healing on the other side where I said, I don't want somebody else to go through it the way I went through it. I don't want a single person to feel like they have to go through it the way I went through it. So I went through, as Joey said, I went through what I call the trifecta. I went through a 5-year infertility journey. And in the middle of that journey, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So I had a cancer battle. I had an infertility battle. And shortly after my son was born, what should have been like the happiest time in my life, I finally have this baby that I've been waiting for 5 years for, and pushing my body through all sorts of surgeries. I had 11 surgeries in 9 years. Wow. Became just basically a living nightmare. I ended up going through a very messy separation. I ended up becoming a single mom. And instead of like what I thought, like, oh, the baby's here, like the world should be sunshine and rainbows, like the walls of the castle, just everything came crumbling down. And I look at it now and I'm like, well, it was all for the better, because now I've created a life that I love. But when you're in it, right? And whether it's the infertility, whether it's the cancer, whether it's a relationship ending, you don't see the highlight reel. You see, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. You see, I don't know how this is meant to play out. And that was especially hard for me during the infertility journey. As a woman, I take it very personally, right? Women take it very personally. By nature, we're to be mothers. That's what we're supposed to do. And so that's where the depression spiral started for me, because it was like, this was not working, surgery after surgery, miscarriage after miscarriage. Like, why was I broken? What did I do? What was fundamentally wrong with me? And there were some very dark days where I was like, you know what, if this is all there is to life, then maybe I don't want this. Maybe this is all it's going to be cracked out to be, and this isn't what I want. And so there were dark days, because I took it all very personal. I didn't share it with anyone. I didn't tell anyone in my circle, my family, what was going on. I internalized it all because I thought I was broken. And so with no outlets, and at that time, I mean, my son is now 10, so it was a decade ago, but at that time, it really wasn't talked about as much as it is today. And so I figured, well, if nobody's talking about it, it must just be me. And so it was this spiral, right? Where I can admit now, like, I had these dark days where I said, I can't do this anymore. I had the days where I broke down in tears saying, you know what, maybe it's not meant to be. You know, the doubts, the fears, the isolation, the loneliness, because if nobody else is talking about it, I guess it just must be me. And that's an ugly place to be. And that's why I finally came forward with my story, because I remember how awful that felt. And I couldn't live with thinking that others were going to go on and deal with it and have to go through it the way I went through it, in that god awful loneliness. And so I said, well, if it takes me telling and sharing my story to help even one woman not feel that loneliness and isolation, then it's worth putting my story out there. I can't change my story. It happened, how it happened. It is what it is. But what I can do is say, it's not okay that we allow others to continue to go through it how I went through it. And we need to change the dialogue and the dynamic around the topic, around the stigma of not sharing, around the stigma of saying we don't talk about those things, or it's not okay to talk about those things. It is okay. It's just a reality of life, and we all have a story, so there should be no shame in it. But the crux of it all is taking the lessons learned and saying, how can I use this to serve?
What are you going to do with it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been through with something, right? Whatever it is. But what do you do with it? And how do you pay it forward to others who might be feeling stuck in a similar situation? Maybe not exactly the same, but similar, and utilize the tools and research that you've done to help others collapse time around their healing. Because we could allow them to heal on their own terms in their own time, or we can help them expedite it so that they can get through it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is a skill. When life hands you a shit sandwich, so to speak, it's a really hard sell to tell somebody, like, within this problem, within this adversity, is a lesson, blessing, and meaning for you to grow and heal and to help somebody else along the same path. It's a tough sell, but it's almost always true. Like, adversity almost always points the way towards purpose. But when you're in it, it's really hard. But it's a skill that can be taught. And by you coming out and telling your story, you're making people aware that, hey, you don't need to get to that dark night of the soul. And I don't know what that moment was. I'm sure there was a moment where you just could not go on any further the way you were living, and you were at a jumping off place, and you had to make a new decision and pick another direction and start moving into uncertainty. but you could preempt it. You could start doing that stuff right away, and you could train yourself to look at like whatever gets handed down the pipes to us, it's there somehow to serve us.
It is, and like you said, it's the hard part, right? When you're in the weeds or the depths of some sort of adversity, and people are telling you like it's for the best, it'll work out, all those things, right? That people try to tell you that it's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear that when you're in
No.
the depths of it. When you are battling and fighting basically to live, like I was, somebody telling me, "Oh, there's a blessing in this," I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like when I'm in and out of the operating rooms and people are going, "Oh no, this is a lesson learned," and I'm like, "You've lost your minds. You don't see it when you're in the midst of it."
Yeah.
But to your point, Joey, like that's what I preach to my clients is like, yes, it took going through the adversity. It took, the universal smack, as I call it, for me to see and start living my life with intention. Like, don't wait for that. Like, you have the ability to be proactive and start living intentionally without sort of hitting that rock bottom. Like a lot of people hit rock bottom and then they wake up, but you have the option to wake up long before you hit rock bottom.
True. I can't imagine. Look, and I'm hearing it from the perspective of that person. Like, I can't imagine going through all those surgeries and being able to give a positive impact around it's going to be okay. Like you're going to learn from this. I love that term, like from pain comes growth, right? And when I think about this term and I'm thinking emotionally, I can always see it. But if you're suffering, like in that aspect, but in hindsight, it's all about perspective, isn't it? It's the way we can look back and see how we did learn from it. And for you, I think it pushed you to take this new leap, to look after yourself and to start sharing your story.
And it did, and it put me to this place in life. But
yeah.
To Joey's point, I did have that dark moment. I can still recall it like it was yesterday, playing through my head.
Can you share that with us a little bit? Like, what did that feel like? What did that look like? Like, it's no way out, no light at the end of the tunnel. Like, could you put words to that even?
Yeah, I mean, and now when I think about it from such a different perspective. But I remember driving home from my office at the time, and there's a very particular off ramp that is a very steep curve, and it's a bridge. And I honestly remember thinking as I turned onto that off ramp, how fast would I have to go to roll my car off this bridge?
Yeah.
Like, what would that speed have to be? And that's when you're like, that's a moment. When you're calculating the speed that you would have to hit to roll off a bridge, that's when you're like, there's a problem here. There's a problem here. But then as dark as that moment was, I also remember walking back in to my surgeon at the time when he delivered my cancer diagnosis and the potential treatments. And I just remember looking at him and muttering the words, "I'm not done yet."
Yeah, well.
There's got to be more to this life. I don't know what it is. I didn't know what it was at that time. I had no idea what it was. But I wasn't done. I wasn't done living. I wasn't done fighting to have the baby that I wanted to have. And I just knew, like, I told him, whatever treatment we choose, you've got one shot to get it right. And so if we need to go the most aggressive, we go the most aggressive, because I'm only doing this once. But I'm going to walk out of here and I'm going to be cancer free. And so as dark as the moment was, there was also the fighter moment, right? It was like the fight or flight, just a completely different scenario. One moment I was running from it thinking, I can't do this anymore. And the other moment was, we're going to go as hard as we can go to fix this. And we're going to do it the right way the first time, because I'm not coming back.
Very brave.
Not an easy one.
It reminds me of the quote, "It's always darkest before the dawn." And I know, like, Danny could really relate to this. And you know, the majority of my life, I was like, okay, get into a shitload of pain and suffering, and then, you know, respond to that and take a different action. And it's been kind of like, you know, and I didn't know that I had a choice of how I would respond to life. I didn't know that I had the freedom and to create a lot, to decide who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up in this world. I never knew that. I never knew I had that power, but we all do. But like the only way that I could have, like, I'm sure I read it. I'm sure it was told to me. I'm sure somebody taught it to me. But the only way it was able to really sink in is for me to go through those really, really, really hard life circumstances, come out the other side and see that I can make another choice.
It's one of those things, like, right, we don't learn in school, right? So it's how do we learn it? And we all learn it in different ways and different means. But you're right. Most of us kind of learn it the hard way. Most of us learn the hard way that, hey, you don't have to take the traditional path. You don't have to do it the way everybody else is doing it. But it takes a lot to break out of sort of the expectation syndrome, the imposter syndrome, you know, the comparison syndrome, and say, yeah, I can walk my own path and I can do it in my own way.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, you really do have to take your own individual journey. When we compare ourselves to other people, you just reminded me of that. We can get stuck in that, but it's like taking the power to stand up and take the action that you need to do to move forward and come out of this. I mean, it's exactly what I've had to do as well, and I love that. Yeah, thank you for sure. And what are you doing now, Cathy? Well, like, yes.
What am I
please,
doing now?
Yeah.
What aren't you doing?
Yeah. May I ask, Cathy, what's all those medallions behind you on the wall?
Those are my medals, predominantly from running races and Spartan races.
Legend.
So that is my daily reminder that I can do hard things.
I love that.
I was not an athlete growing up in school. I was in high school. I was, you know, the last one to finish the 1 mile test in gym class. It was not my thing. And when I vowed to change my life around after my cancer diagnosis and get healthy, I started running. And it's one of those things you sort of get kind of hooked. And it was always increasing the challenge. And I got into Spartan racing, and I had a wonderful team of guys that supported me. And we became family, and together we completed 10 Spartan races. And so if I can do a Spartan race, I can certainly do some different things. I mean, it puts it all in perspective when you do something that is that challenging, that if you can do that, then some of these other things, they don't seem so hard anymore.
So tell us about plans for your business in 2022.
Yes.
Tell us a couple hot tamales. What can we expect from Cathy in 2022?
Yes, 2022. My business is revamping, so we're broadening the umbrella on what we're going to do. Everything, I'm redoing branding. I was actually working on that today. The name is changing, the branding is changing, the umbrella is changing, because my business that started as strictly a health coaching business to help people transform their physical bodies has now expanded into emotional intelligence, into mindset, into life coaching, to help individuals really create not just the life that they love. I mean, yes, you need to create a life that you love and is filled with joy, but what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? Like, what do you want to be known for at the end of the day? And how do you step into that and embody that and lead yourself as that person while you're here today, as opposed to just, oh, that's how I want to be remembered. Yeah, that's how I want to be remembered, but that's the person I want to be today. And so really working with my clients on, physical health is definitely a part of it, because you can't show up if you're not physically well. But how do we create this legacy while we're still living? And a big part, Joey, that's a big part of what I do is creating my legacy through my son and his work. And sometimes I was telling the woman I was speaking with today, sometimes you won't even see me, promoting or sharing my own personal stuff, because it's sharing my legacy. It's sharing what my son's doing. It's sharing his journey and things. And to me, that lights me up, more than necessarily creating that social media post about my coaching. Because at the end of the day, they're going to remember me through the great work that he does.
Tell us a little bit about what he's doing. He's a special
Please
little guy.
do,
Yeah, Danny, I don't know if you were aware, but this guy's writing books and he's helping people, and I just love it.
How old is your boy?
He turned 10 in June.
Yeah, well, that's good.
10 in June. But it was when COVID first hit and we were kind of stuck at home here, and he was doing his schooling here at home. So we had a lot of time to spend together. He came to me and he said he wanted to write a book together. Being a 9-year-old boy at the time, I thought, well, this is either going to be about video games or sports or, boy stuff, if you will. And when I asked him what he wanted to write the book about, he said he wanted to write the book about acts of kindness.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, well, my work here is done, I think.
Yeah. What a beautiful thing to hear from your boy. It would have to make you proud to hear those words exactly. That's beautiful.
Exactly. And so he wrote the book. He sat down every day after school and added a few sentences to the book. And then, I found a publisher and an illustrator, and we created it. We made it happen.
Beautiful.
And so
what is it called? It's
called Kindness, Pass It On.
Where do you get it?
You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on my website as well. But, it was important to me that it's his words. It's his story.
For sure.
The illustrations are his. It's a picture of him and his classmates out of his yearbook. I mean, I wanted it to be as realistic and true to him as possible. And so he created that. It was just over a year ago now that came out. And, he's been doing some amazing things with it. He's spoke to some other classes at other schools, at surrounding schools. He's spoken on podcasts and
What a legend.
We need to get him
on. That's so amazing, Cathy. Good on you. You helped make that happen. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. You should
try to get him on. We'd have to clean up our language a little bit, but
yeah. But that's the thing is, I was telling someone today too, I could never do that at 9 or 10 years old. I couldn't talk to a classroom of kids. And the things that he says to these kids, he's such an old soul. He literally says to these kids, you can do anything you put your mind to, because if I can publish a book, you can too. And I'm just like, who are you right now?
He gets it from Mom for sure.
He's a blessing. That's beautiful. I love that.
He is.
How beautiful. That is so cool. Can I just share, most of my social media, even in the professional manner, is about my kid too. The kids. It's being so proud of your child just makes you want to share it with the world. And it's such a powerful thing when we can do that, because when we can show our love for our children, it really reflects our own personal journey. Absolutely. And and it just
does. Although it encompasses all those values that you're passing down to them, and how they're learning from you, whether it's just watching. I mean, half the time they learn more from just watching us than the words that we say. But it's so intriguing, the things that they capture, that you don't even realize that they're picking up on.
Actually, I reckon there's no better way to promote yourself indirectly through your children. Wow, that's very good. Unbelievable, Cathy. That's so cool.
Yeah, he's my old soul. He's my old soul.
No kidding, man. That is not what I was doing when I was 10.
No.
Okay. Well, look, Cathy, it's so wonderful and beautiful to hear your journey and the power of sharing this stuff. I know, we know from our own experience with hosting this show weekly, and I just want to also acknowledge that sometimes it's people watching who don't interact, but that people are hearing the message, and there's no more powerful. In fact, it's probably more so the people who aren't engaging that are hearing the message. That's been my experience, you know. So
yeah, we see that on social media as well, right? Even if they don't
yeah,
hit the like button or comment on the
absolutely.
post, they saw the
Yeah,
post, right?
yeah.
People are watching and you don't even realize it. You
But
don't even
even more,
realize it.
yeah, even more importantly, I've found that the people who aren't engaging in any way are the ones that are getting more from the message than anyone else. That's just, I don't know. It's just been my experience because we're lucky enough to receive quite a few private messages from people saying exactly that. Danny, I didn't engage, but I want you to know this, you know, to Joey and I, and certainly to all our guests. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even realize the impact that you're having on people's lives. Half the time, you are impacting people in their ways and in their lives, and you don't even realize it.
I was told one bit of advice a while ago along this journey was, you know, find your passion and share it with the world. It's my responsibility actually to share, you know, my passion with, you know, well-being, helping people in recovery with the world, and you know, in turn, it makes me happy too, you know. Cathy and Joey, we wrap this show up. Joey, how do we wrap this show up, mate?
Yeah, we like to share, you know, the secret sauce to fulfilling life, and that's, you know, plugging into the higher force of gratitude. You know, a tip, a tool, an exercise that you use or that you teach, that helps you generate gratitude in your life. You want to start us off, Cathy?
Yeah, sure. So I think what is so important, you know, we always hear about the gratitude lists. I think that's important, but what I also think is more important is taking the time to have conversations with the people that you encounter. Like our lives are so busy and hectic now, right? We can fill the calendar with distractions and social media and emails and this and that. Sit down and talk to someone. Sit down and ask them, you know, how are you? Because a lot of the times we just assume people are okay or doing okay because we don't hear from them, right? So they must be okay because, well, they're just chugging along in life. But like sit down and really value those relationships of those people in your circle and truly understand like how the person is, not just what you see from the outside.
Thank
That's
you.
beautiful. Thank you, Kathy.
May I just say, you know, this is really weird. I'm so, but yesterday I did this meditation reading. Joey, you might have did it. Might be today for you. Actually, it would be, but it was around listening, right? And it's so funny. I swear to God, it has impacted the way I'm talking right today because it's like I wanted a couple of times to say something. And I thought, no, shut up, Danny. Just listen to Kathy, and it's exactly what you're talking about. Actually, that's how we build intimate and solid relationships with people, is being there for them and listening, you know. And
And it's very odd because a lot of people you'll see are either not used to someone listening to them and focusing on what they're saying, not just hearing them, listening to them. There's a big
yeah,
difference. So people are either very shocked by it or
yeah.
people are like, you know, very confused about like, oh, you remember that? Oh, you actually heard that? Like, yes.
Eh,
Like,
and may I just say too, I've also been aware. I work with a bunch of men in the early days of recovery. I've also been aware of how they haven't been listening. I've been watching. You know, I'm the curious observer. I try to always be, and I've seen it how people interact the story with the story. They're not listening. They're just competing often. And I think life can and ego can do that to us. You know, my tip would be, and look, and you've brought this one up for me, Kathy, again, is around kindness, you know, and I share this often, but kindness is the shit, mate. Kindness is the thing that makes me happy, and in turn, I mean, it helps other people too. I love just the simple little things by just saying hello to strangers, smiling at someone, listening to someone without any expectation, and maybe even doing a random act of kindness, for somebody without any expectation. It's the source to happiness. Absolutely, guys. Yeah, and your
I think
son reminds me of
when
that.
if you are able and capable of loaning someone your strength, even if it's just for a moment,
Yeah.
and instead of letting them kind of wallow in their weakness,
Mm,
it is so good, not only for you, but for the impact that you'll have on them.
what a gift, Joey.
Beautiful. Well, that's I want to wrap it up right there. Those are, that's tough to top. But what came to mind for me, especially, during a time where I feel like my physical body is kind of breaking down on me, is to just, express gratitude to your physical body for carrying you, and supporting you, through all the years of your life, and how it's always there for you, and it always can go the extra mile for you, and just expressing gratitude to your own body, for being there and supporting you, through whatever life circumstances life throws at you.
Absolutely, yeah. Look after yourself, basically, isn't it? So self-care, always. And sometimes we can forget very easily and get tied up in that busy Christmas period, as you're suggesting, and thinking, "Fuck, I need to look after myself here because I'm going mad." Especially when we spend and dedicate our lives to helping other people. You definitely need to look after yourself too. Cathy, such a pleasure to meet you from Chicago.
Thank you.
Joey from New Jersey. We're grateful to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Cathy. Thank you, everybody who joined us.
Yes,
we'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Connect
Cathy,
with Cathy. There's information in the post on how to do that.
Yes, there is. Yeah, to connect with Cathy. All right, Cathy, just stay with us. We're in the broadcast. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.